Hello, and today we're going to be sowing seeds on pots and trowels, which is brought to you with the support of Mr. Fothergill Seeds and Cobra Garden. Well, we're going to do a bit of seed sowing today, and I think lots of people think seed sowing is only done in the spring, but it isn't. We can sow seed pretty much all year round. The majority is in the spring, but there's through the summer, autumn and winter there are still some seeds that we can sow. So we're going to do a little selection today, and there are lots we can be doing. Things like, vegetables, spring cabbages and lettuces, cornflowers, all sorts of things, salads there we can be sowing at this time of the year. Some of them are for next year, and some we can enjoy later this autumn and into early winter, just to get some fresh salads. So the first one we're going to sow is spring cabbage, and as its name suggests, spring cabbage, we eat it in the spring, but we sow it at this time of the year, really any time from late August until about the end of September, with the aim of producing young plants that we can put out in the garden to about November time, and that gives them time to make a root system and establish and overwinter. In the spring they grow, and then we cut them April, May and June time. Those are lovely spring greens. So the way I do mine is in little plug trays, and I like to use the fibre pots for spring cabbage, because when we do come to plant them out in a few weeks time, then I just tear these apart, we plant the whole thing out, and this rots down in the soil. So all I'm going to do is just fill this. I've got two sixes here, so a dozen plants is more than enough for Jill and I might do a few more, but usually that's enough. So they go in there. I'm just using a nice multi-purpose compost, and then what I'm going to do, and I haven't got my dibber with me, so I'm going to use my free dibber, just make a little indentation in each one, very shallow. I'm literally, I don't know, quarter of an inch, something like that, and then I'm going to pop the seed in. Now these germinate usually very easily, but I want them all to have a plant in each one of these little cells. So what I'm going to do is to make sure, and you can see the seed, it's plenty big enough to handle there individually. So I'm going to pop two seeds into each one, and that way I know that I'm going to get at least one, or hopefully get at least one. If they both grow, I can either thin them out to a single seed lin, or what I can do is let them both grow, but I shall probably thin them out. So we'll put the spare ones back in there because they're going to blow around. It's a bit blustery today, so put those in there and they can go in there. We keep those cool and refrigerated, or in a cool shed. They'll keep for next year, so put those where they're not going to blow away, and literally then all we need to do is to just cover those over. It's as simple as that. Little tap down, and then I've already done a label, and they can then be left either outside, somewhere sheltered, or if you've got a cold greenhouse or cold frame, that is perfect. They don't need to be too hot. We don't want to cook them, and I'm going to give them a little drink just to water them in so that the compost is nice and moist. And I'd expect to see those little cabbage seedlings popping their noses through the compost in about a week to 10 days time, and as long as I keep them moist and sheltered, they'll be ready to go out in the garden in about 5 weeks time, something like that. So spring cabbage is sown. Something else you can sow at this time of the year, and you don't have to have a garden for this, is to grow some of the late salad crops, and we can sow these for pretty much 9-10 months of the year. Lots of different types of lettuce, mixed lettuce, different colours. We can get things like rockets and mizunas, mixed salad leaves and all sorts of things. So there is a good selection that we can sow, but I'm going to sow this one. It's one we eat a lot of. This is one of the salad bowl ones, so it doesn't form a heart, it's just the leaves, and it's the one where you can keep pulling them and they keep coming. So we've already got some that we're using in the polytunnel, so by sowing these now, these will be ready sort of mid to late October and will last up until Christmas. So any bowl is ideal, or plant pot or seed tray if you want to. It's a little bit cold to put them out into the garden, so that's why it's good to put them in a container. It doesn't have to be as big as this if you're doing it on a windowsill, of course. So I've just filled that with some compost, lightly firmed it down. We don't have to be too precise with these lettuce. And then I'm just going to sow thinly. Now these are dark seeds, I'm not sure you'll see them, but I'm just going to sow thinly. We don't want them to be too thick on here, because we don't thin these out. We let them all grow, and we're going to start to pull them while they're still quite small leaves, and they're just nice to put in sandwiches or a little bit of a green salad with something that you're having as a meal. So even in the winter, it is nice to think you're picking something green and healthy out of the garden. And these again don't need heat. Lettuce like it cool to germinate. The cooler the better in a way, as long as they're not freezing. So again, outside somewhere sheltered, they do need to be covered over a little bit. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this compost over them like this, really until the seeds more or less just disappear from view, so we can't see them. And again, that will be watered, given a good watering, and then put somewhere out of direct sunlight. We don't want this to get too warm, because otherwise the seeds just won't germinate with lettuce. So this can go somewhere shady to get them to germinate, and then into somewhere lighter. Or as I say, if you've got a nice windowsill, then that is ideal for them. And you could then sow some more in 2 or 3 weeks and keep that continuity going. And finally, I want to sow some seeds of flowers here. And one of the things that's done really well in the garden this year for us are the hardy annuals. And I had a packet of hardy annuals here, and I haven't a clue where I've put them. Anybody seen them? Are they blown on the floor? Oh, there they are. There they are. Told you it was breezy. So these are cornflowers, and this year the cornflowers have done well. They finished, but we've just got the last of the larkspur. We've got cosmos, we've had calendulas, we've had all sorts. The zinnias are still flowering, but what I want to do now is sow them. Now these are what we call hardy annuals, and a hardy annual means it's hardy, it can stand the frost, and an annual means it lasts 1 year. But if you notice, if you've grown them before, very often where they've finished flowering and the seed pods have developed and split open, you'll get at this time of the year a flush of seedlings growing around the base of the old plants. They will overwinter and grow next year. So I'm going to grow a few now, because it just gives me a head start. So these will flower maybe a month earlier than the ones that we sow in the spring. So it just means that we get a continuation of lovely annuals, and these not only look good in the garden, they attract bees and pollinators, so they're really good for the environment, but they're great for cut flowers. Just a few of these and a bit of foliage to bring into the house really cheers you up, and I just love these blue cornflowers. So what I'm going to do with these, I don't want to put them in the garden yet, because I do find the slugs love them over winter. So I'm going to start these off in one of these plastic cell trays, the sort you get your bedding plants in. I've had these years, I just use them time and time again. They last for years and years. So these are just the right size. This one has got 12 sections in it, and I can sow into these, and this will make a nice clump of seedlings that I will overwinter, and then literally plant them out probably next March time as strong seedlings, and they will grow away and they'll be flowering by June. So again, I'm using my homemade dibber. Just make a little indentation in there. These are really easy seeds to sow. They're quite big seeds, and of course if you've got some in the garden you can collect your own, but if you want them to be true to type, then buy new packets. There's a whole range of different colours, pinks and whites and mauves, and this is the really lovely blue, but you can see there the little seeds. And again, I'm just going to put a pinch of 2 or 3 seedlings into each one of those little indentations. Doesn't matter if there's 4 or 5, nobody's counting. And I won't thin these out, because these can grow as a little clump of seedlings, and the idea is we want to keep these nice and cool over the winter, so that ideally what we're aiming for is a batch of seedlings that is maybe just 2 or 3 inches tall. We don't want to get them too warm, otherwise they get drawn and leggy. We want lovely compact squat seedlings, a little bit of compost just to cover them over, and then water them in. I'm going to put them in my cold greenhouse, but if you haven't and you've got a little cold frame, that's fine, or just stand them against a wall just to give them that little bit of shelter, and then they could stay there over winter as little seedlings. But it is important we give them that drink to start with, to start the seeds into action, and the all important label if you're sowing more than one tray. And then I expect those will be through really quickly. We probably just need to protect them from the slugs and snails, having a final feast before winter. But then I say we can overwinter them, and come next spring we'll have lovely seedlings to plant out and enjoy those glorious blue flowers next summer. So there is loads you can be getting on with. All you need is a bit of compost, a few containers, and get busy sowing seeds. Well, thanks for watching Pots and Trowels, and thank you for all your likes and supports. And remember, all the pots and trowels that we've done over the last 12 months or so are on YouTube, so you can go on there for free and look back over all of them and see what we've been doing in the garden. Next time we're going to be doing autumn lawn care, so we'll see you then. Bye.